Coming up on the 2014 FIFA World Cup magazine, Fortaleza and the inaugural fixture at the Castelão. We speak to Big Phil Scolari as he embarks on his second term as the coach of Brazil. And we begin our countdown to the Confederations Cup by assessing the chances of Tahiti and Spain. But we begin in Mexico City's Estadio Azteca, where El Tri in white hosted Jamaica in the fourth round of FIFA World Cup qualifying in the North Central America and Caribbean zone. Joby McAnuff may still be wondering how he didn't break the deadlock for the Reggae Boys inside the first 10 minutes. Mexico have appeared in each of the last 5 finals tournaments and are fully expecting to make it to Brazil. Giovanni dos Santos had their best chance of an eventful first half, but was denied by Donovan Ricketts. Ricketts was Jamaica's hero on the day, pulling off another fine save from Javier Hernandez. All in all, a frustrating afternoon for Mexico, who had to make do with a solitary point on home soil. Meanwhile, in a hot and humid San Pedro Sula, Honduras in white faced the USA, who've been present at every World Cup since 1990. Their coach, Jurgen Klinsmann, won the tournament as a player that year and saw his side take a first-half lead through Clint Dempsey. As good as that goal was, the American strike was soon eclipsed by this effort from Juan Garcia, a disbelieving Tim Howard in the US goal, and a similar reaction from Garcia's coach on the sidelines. Not bad for a defender. Worse was to come for the USA when Oscar Garcia unselfishly teed up Jerry Bengtson, an MLS player with New England Revolution, to score the winning goal 11 minutes from time. That 2-1 defeat leaves the States bottom of the group. And that's because Panama and Costa Rica drew 2-2 in Panama City in the only other qualifying tie played in February. The top 3 will qualify automatically for Brazil, with the 4th place team facing a 2-legged playoff against the leading side in Oceania. In December 2012, Fortaleza's Arena Castelão became the first of Brazil's 12 World Cup stadia to open its doors. Having undergone major reconstruction, the near 65,000 capacity stadium will be a fitting venue for 3 fixtures at the FIFA Confederations Cup and a further 6 matches at the main event in 2014.
We're very happy that we've been able to deliver the first stadium. The joy is even greater when we consider that this was achieved on the smallest budget in Brazil. So not only did we save public resources, we've also put the northeast of the country, and Ceará in particular, on the map, as shown by the execution of this task and the quality of this public stadium.
In late January, shortly before the stadium hosted its first fixture, a delegation from FIFA and the local organising committee joined the governor on the pitch at the Castelão to perform the symbolic handover of tickets to 3 of the construction workers who helped to deliver the stadium on schedule. In time, all 5,000 workers will receive a ticket to the first World Cup match that will be played here next year.
Receiving a ticket for the World Cup is a form of recognition. A sign of gratitude for contributing to the building work, for being a part of this project.
That's something we did in South Africa, and that's something in a way we should do always. I mean, these people, I mean, thousands of them have been working, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even now they will work during Carnival. So it means that without them, there is no stadium, there is no infrastructure. So it's why it's so important to recognize their work. And there are 3 million tickets.
It was then time for Jerome Valk and the members of the LOC to settle down and enjoy some football. On the agenda, 2 matches in the Campeonato do Nordeste, the first of which featured Fortaleza in the hoop shirts and Sport, the latter a club from another World Cup venue, Recife. Try as they might, neither team was able to score the first goal in the new stadium. That was an honour that would go to former Brazil international Kleberson in the second game of the double-header. And he, as well as all the players who took to the field, were impressed with their surroundings.
It's very good. The structure of the Castelão is excellent. FIFA must be congratulated for such a perfect opening. On all fronts. Congratulations.
Time now for the first of our previews to this year's FIFA Confederations Cup. And we'll begin by piecing together the facts and figures on Tahiti, the tournament outsiders from the South Pacific. Tahiti has been described as a mesmerising wonderland of reef-fringed islands and translucent aqua lagoons. The locals have been boasting about it for quite some time, far longer than they have about their football team.
I felt so much joy. It's hard to describe. It was a feeling deep inside me. It was very intense.
Who would have thought 12 years ago that we would win the final and qualify to play in the Confederations Cup? That's why I started to cry.
When the final whistle blew, the first thing I said was, "We're going to Brazil."
June 10th, 2012 is the date that will long be remembered in these parts. That was the day that Tahiti beat New Caledonia 1-0 in the final of Oceania's Nations Cup to secure their place at the FIFA Confederations Cup in Brazil. That goal from Stevie Chong, who plays his club football in Belgium's 3rd division, guaranteed Tahiti what could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And following the draw in December, the Polynesian nation, which is listed 140th in the FIFA ranking, will get to play the world and European champions Spain at one of the game's most iconic venues.
It's hard to take in, to play against those players, and especially in the Maracanã, against the world champions, Spain, players like Iniesta, Xavi, Torres. It's something unimaginable for players from Tahiti, especially as we're amateurs. We want to do well, to make our mark for Tahiti, and give everything we can, and not be ridiculed, because even a small island like ours has both potential and good players.
The African champions Nigeria will be Tahiti's first opponents in Belo Horizonte ahead of that clash with Spain in Rio de Janeiro. And to round off the group phase, Tahiti will face the Copa America winners Uruguay in Recife.
Not to concede a goal in one half of the game would already be a good result. And if we can score ourselves, well, that would be historic for Tahitian football, which, remember, is amateur. Whatever happens, we will continue to work hard. And I hope this opportunity will help open the door here in Polynesia, giving players a better base, so we can give them an opportunity to play professional football.
As the coach points out, the members of the Tahiti squad are all amateur, making their achievement of qualifying for Brazil all the more remarkable. Indeed, it was the first time in the 39-year history of the OFC Nations Cup that one of the Pacific Island nations managed to break the stranglehold of New Zealand and former participant Australia. It's another giant step in the development of football in this tiny French-speaking nation. They were represented in Egypt at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in 2009, but even that achievement pales in comparison to what this group has achieved. They'll be underdogs in Brazil, but that's a role in which Tahiti could surprise and flourish. On the 28th of January 2013, there were just 500 days until the opening game of the 20th FIFA World Cup, the 5th to be staged in South America. In Brasilia, the federal capital, festivities had been planned to mark the occasion, but they were cancelled out of respect for the victims of the nightclub fire in the south of the country the previous day. The delegation from FIFA and the local organising committee spent just 18 hours in Brasilia, during which time they paid a visit to the city's Estadio Nacional Mané Garrincha. The stadium is rapidly taking shape now, and as it does, the excitement and anticipation are starting to grow.
We are 500 days from the World Cup now. The atmosphere is already one of great expectation across Brazil, with adrenaline pumping throughout the nation. And here we are looking at a complex stadium in the shape of Mané Garrincha, which posed us many challenges in terms of engineering and technology to guarantee the delivery of the arena in time for the Confederations Cup and the World Cup. What we see here fills us with confidence that the stadium will be ready on time.
Having missed a deadline of December 2012, the contractors now have 4,000 workers operating in 3 shifts around the clock, with the goal of delivering a completed stadium in April. Brasilia's imposing venue, which will hold 70,000, is second only to the Maracanã in terms of capacity. It will stage the opening fixture at the Confederations Cup and will then host 7 of the 64 matches at the World Cup in 2014.
There's a lot of work to do, but again, I mean, the delivery is mid of April, and the person in charge definitely is very committed to make sure that it will be mid of April. And it's an amazing stadium. You have it's a kind of Colisée in the city of Brasilia, so I'm sure that it will remain as one of the great stadiums.
Less than 24 hours later, the delegation found itself 1,000 kilometres to the northeast of Brasilia, in Salvador, another of the 6 host cities for the forthcoming FIFA Confederations Cup. Once again, the VIPs dropped in on the city's new football cathedral, the Arena Fonte Nova, which will boast a capacity of 56,000 for the 3 matches it will host in June and the 6 it will stage in 2014. For FIFA World Cup winner Bebeto, a native of the city, it was a moment he will cherish for many years to come.
This is where I started. I scored many goals at this end and many more at the other end too. It looks like an updated Fonte Nova. They built a new Fonte Nova. I think the look is very similar. It was hugely emotional when I arrived here yesterday, as the plane flew over the stadium. And just now, when I entered the arena, I looked around and thought, my God, this is my life. This is where I started playing football. It's a great joy.
They are working very well, they are on track. The stadium will be there when it has to be there. We will run test events. It is a beautiful stadium, and the architecture also is a beautiful one. And it's an important city for us because we also have the final draw on the 6th of December. So now altogether, the 3 cities we have seen, one is ready, one is on track, one has to make sure that they are not wasting a single day. And now we'll go to Rio and see how is Rio.
And in Rio, FIFA and the LOC invited the newly appointed 2014 FIFA World Cup ambassadors to unveil the tournament's official poster. Mario Zagallo wasn't present, but Amarildo, Bebeto, Carlos Alberto Torres, Marta and Ronaldo were on hand to reveal the last visual icon to be launched ahead of next year's extravaganza. Manaus, the state capital of Amazonas, is the hotbed of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a martial art that has its roots in judo, a sport that was introduced to Brazil in 1914. Like judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a combat sport, but as a self-defense system, it favors ground fighting and grappling over throwing.
In Jiu-Jitsu, a person of 55 kilograms can easily defeat an opponent weighing 100 kilograms. Good technique is the most important factor, because in Jiu-Jitsu, minimal strength can have maximum efficiency. You can use the strength of your opponent and transform it to your benefit.
As well as presiding over the Jiu-Jitsu Federation in Amazonas, Luis Neto runs the sport's biggest academy in northern Brazil. It's the training base for a number of world champions in a variety of age groups. Football may be king in other parts of Brazil, but in Manaus, Jiu-Jitsu enjoys the most popularity.
I think that today, here in the Amazon, football isn't a sport that we can play professionally. Jiu-Jitsu gives us the possibility to win national and international titles. When I played football, I didn't get as much enjoyment as when I started doing Jiu-Jitsu. I've entered competitions and I've grown to love this sport. It's the best thing in my life.
The Copa Jiu-Jitsu, a biannual event in Manaus, is a keenly contested competition for players of all ages. For many parents in these parts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is seen as an essential part of their children's upbringing, and both boys and girls are encouraged to take up the sport. And the benefits, it seems, are manifold.
Jiu-Jitsu brings confidence, respect, emotional stability and security to their lives. For example, my son was getting poor marks and he had problems with other pupils. Then he started Jiu-Jitsu. Once he started training, he quickly began to understand the meaning of respect.
Like judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's ranking system is based on a series of coloured belts, with white, blue, purple, brown and black, the natural order of things. Red belts are also attainable, but they're reserved for Grand Masters, few of whom walk the earth, even here in Amazonas.
We are descendants of an indigenous people, warriors in fact. I believe that the spirit of the warrior lives in every Amazonian who can express himself in a fight. The fight is very strong within our being. And that's why we see a great number of athletes in competitions, participating in their thousands, from the age of 4 until well into adulthood. All of us, the young and old, men and women, we all have that fighting spirit.
It's FIFA Confederations Cup time again, and having puzzled already over Oceania's representatives Tahiti, let's turn our attention to Europe and the team they call La Roja. When Spain arrived in South Africa for the 2010 FIFA World Cup, they were the reigning European champions. 4 years on, when they head to Brazil for the 2014 tournament, they'll do so as champions of both their continent and the world. And for that reason, Spain will rival Brazil as the bookmakers' favourites to win the Confederations Cup in June.
There is possibly too much hype, but that always occurs when a team wins trophies. Our aim was to achieve something concrete, not just the World Cup. We won 3 consecutive international titles, and that success added value to the team and our players. The Spanish fans are very affectionate towards us now, but it's clear that if we fail, that will change, because that's the way it goes in sport.
And fail they did on their Confederations Cup debut in 2009, despite winning all 3 of their group games. A 2-0 semi-final defeat to the USA scuppered their chances of lifting another trophy, although just being in the country that would host the World Cup 12 months later eventually paid handsome dividends.
Or the aspects of knowing the place, of knowing where to go. Hotels, the training complex, the climate. I mean, I think it was amazing for us, an enriching experience, without a doubt.
When Spain heads south to Brazil in June, they're likely to do so with a squad that boasts many of the players who've helped them dominate the international scene in recent years. New faces, though, are always welcome, and Vicente del Bosque will not shy away from any difficult decisions.
Now we have a very stable squad. But there will be new players, very competent ones. There is a lot of competence. It will be difficult for us to make choices, because in reality there are many players that have been in the team for a long time, who are doing well at their clubs. But many new individuals are emerging, and they must make their way bit by bit. That might create an uncomfortable situation for us, for the coach. But we must call up the best, those that we think are the right ones to do well in the tournament.
Spain will begin their Confederations Cup campaign in Recife against Uruguay, ahead of a first-ever meeting with Tahiti in Rio's Maracanã. And then it's off to Fortaleza for their final group game with the recently crowned African champions, Nigeria.
We don't consider it to be a smaller World Cup. It's a tournament between champions of different competitions, different confederations. So we will afford it the importance it deserves. After finishing third in South Africa, we must prepare well to be in better shape this time, so we can play a good tournament.
Over a decade has elapsed since Brazil clinched a 5th world title in Korea and Japan. Their 7 wins from 7 games in the finals was in sharp contrast to their form in qualifying, which saw 2 coaches lose their job before Felipe Scolari steered them over the line.
He's a very serious guy. He's someone who's very dedicated and thorough. At the same time, though, he's very friendly. An intelligent guy who knows how to unite the group. He turned our squad into one happy family. That's how we're known, as the Scolari family.
Much to the dismay of the Brazilian people, Scolari resigned after the 2002 tournament, eventually resurfacing in Europe with Portugal's national team. Spells in club management in England and Uzbekistan followed, before a return to Brazil in 2010 with Palmeiras. It was his second spell with the Sao Paulo Giants, who he guided to continental glory in '99.
I spent 14 years of my career as a football coach living outside Brazil. So I thought it was the right time to return home, to work for 3 or 4 years here in Brazil, to end my career as a football coach in my own country, with those teams that I had already worked with, or perhaps with a different club. I also thought of ending my career at a World Cup in 2014 here in Brazil.
And now he's got that chance. Having left Palmeiras last year, Scolari was a free and willing replacement for Mano Menezes, who was dismissed by the Brazilian Federation in November. Scolari's return to the Selecao's top job was headline news in this football-obsessed country, where the pressure is well and truly on to land a 6th world title.
Often, the country hosting the event is much more under the spotlight. It's as if the host nation should have the best group, the best team, the best players, regardless of their position in the world ranking, regardless of their achievements. So there's a little more of an obligation to win, especially when you get to the World Cup.
When Scolari took charge of a struggling Brazil side in 2001, expectations were low. He turned that to his advantage, overhauling the tactics and their fortunes within a year. He now finds himself in a similar position, and unsurprisingly, he's not ruling out similar action.
With the mix of players at my disposal, I can't say that I have an ideal number of certain players to work with, be it 1, 2, 5 or 10. No, there may be one player or another in a specific position who I believe can help the team with his experience. In the remaining year and a half, I will call up different players and observe how they react. We will have a team that will be a mix of youth and experience.
Scolari's first game of his second coming ended in a 2-1 defeat to England at Wembley, and there will be further tests against Russia, Italy, England once again, and France before the FIFA Confederations Cup in June. Victory in that tournament would be a huge fillip for Brazil and enhance yet further the glowing reputation of the man the people call Felipao. Next time, we head indoors to meet Falcao, one of the finest exponents of futsal. We're in Rio de Janeiro to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Bossa Nova. And we'll look at Uruguay and Mexico as we continue our countdown to the Confederations Cup. Until then, goodbye.